Welcome to History Love, where we explore the stories, people, and events that shaped our world. Let's dive into the past and uncover history's most fascinating moments. Battles of Saratoga. The autumn of 1777, when the winds of war shifted on the fields of Saratoga. A clash that would echo through history, marking a turning point in the American Revolution. A campaign fraught with ambition and peril, where the fate of empires teetered on the edge of a battle. In the spring of 1777, the British, still licking their wounds from the failed American invasion of Canada 2 years prior, prepared for another strike. Their plan? A complex march to Albany, New York, designed to cut the colonies in two and crush the spirit of the Revolution. General John Burgoyne, the architect of the Northern Campaign, led a force of 9,000 men, including British regulars and Hessian mercenaries. His route would take him south through the rugged wilderness of Lake Champlain and Lake George. Meanwhile, Colonel Barry St. Leger's smaller contingent was advancing from the west, through the Mohawk Valley, while General Sir William Howe's forces were to come from the south. The ultimate prize, Albany, the key to severing New England from the rest of the rebellious colonies. Burgoyne's advance began with the fall of Fort Ticonderoga on July 5, an evacuation without a fight. But as the army pressed forward, its path became treacherous. The swamps and forests slowed their progress, and Fort Edward, the next target, fell on July 31st, leaving General Philip Schuyler and his troops to retreat to Stillwater, just 20 miles north of Albany. Schuyler, a seasoned officer, would soon be replaced by General Horatio Gates, a leader trusted by the Continental Congress. The British march grew even more grueling. Bridges were built, supplies dwindled, and the men were exhausted. A detachment sent to seize supplies from the town of Bennington met its fate in an ambush. General John Stark and Colonel Seth Warner's forces decimated the Germans sent by Burgoyne, leaving the British commander with fewer men and more doubts. His once confident march had turned into a sluggish, uncertain retreat. As if that wasn't enough, a devastating blow came when General Howe informed Burgoyne that he was abandoning the New York campaign to head south and invade Pennsylvania. The grand design was falling apart, but Burgoyne, bound by his orders, pressed on. By September 13th, his army crossed the Hudson River and camped near Saratoga, where the tides of war would soon turn. Just 4 miles to the south, General Gates had assembled a formidable force of 12,000 men, reinforced daily. The stage was set. A final confrontation between two armies, one battling to fulfill a dying vision of empire, the other struggling to forge a new future of independence. The Battle of Saratoga was about to begin. The air was thick with tension on September 19, 1777, as General Burgoyne, desperate to press his advantage, moved south to engage the Continental forces at Freeman's Farm, in what would come to be known as the First Battle of Saratoga. The British Army, once confident in its might, soon found itself caught in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Burgoyne's forces advanced into the open fields, unaware that the sharp-eyed riflemen of Colonel Daniel Morgan's elite sharpshooter unit were concealed in the dense woods. As the British emerged into the clearing, they were mercilessly cut down, officers falling one by one, their bodies strewn across the battlefield. The advance guard began to falter, their resolve crumbling under the weight of unseen death. Just as the British were on the verge of collapse, the main army arrived, and with them, German reinforcements. The tide of battle shifted. The Germans struck hard, pushing back the American lines. 4 hours, the two armies fought tooth and nail, each side refusing to give an inch. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the Continentals, though weary, remained unbroken. They withdrew under the cover of night, leaving the British to claim the field. But the cost was high for the British, with over 440 men dead and nearly 700 wounded. The Americans, by comparison, suffered only 90 dead and 240 wounded, a testament to the resilience of Gates's forces. As the dust settled, Burgoyne waited for a lifeline from General Sir Henry Clinton, who had been left in command of British forces in New York. Clinton, poised to launch an attack up the Hudson Valley, sent word that reinforcements were on their way. But the answer never arrived. On September 21st, Burgoyne's hopes were dashed when he learned that Clinton's forces would not be coming to his aid. The message, lost in the chaos of war, left Burgoyne stranded, awaiting reinforcements that would never materialize. Meanwhile, General Howe's victory in Philadelphia, capturing the colonial capital, proved hollow, a victory disconnected from the broader sweep of the war. On October 3, Clinton moved north with 4,000 men, capturing a few forts along the Hudson River. But Albany was never the goal. Burgoyne, now isolated, could only watch as the American forces grew stronger, their resolve hardened, and their positions fortified with each passing day. The stage was set for the final act. Burgoyne's once proud army had withered under the relentless pressure of the American forces. By October 7, his ranks were reduced to a mere 5,000 combat-ready men, and supplies were running low. With only 2 weeks' worth of provisions left, the British general made a fateful decision: there would be no more waiting. He would strike even without the reinforcements he so desperately needed. This would be the Battle of Bemis Heights, or the Second Battle of Saratoga, a fierce and bloody clash that would seal the fate of the British forces. Burgoyne, hoping to probe the American defenses, sent a reconnaissance force of 1,500 men in 3 columns. The main body of his army remained positioned closer to the heights, ready for battle. Brigadier General Simon Fraser, commanding the British left, advanced toward the American position, only to be met by a well-prepared Continental force, including the infamous riflemen of Colonel Daniel Morgan. From their hidden positions in the woods, the sharpshooters unleashed a deadly volley, fatally wounding Fraser as he attempted to cover the retreat of his troops. The momentum shifted quickly. As the British forces struggled to regroup, the American lines began to press harder. Just when it seemed the Continental advance might falter, a figure appeared on horseback: Brigadier General Benedict Arnold, his fresh brigade at his back, charging into the fray with ferocity. His arrival turned the tide. The British, disoriented and under heavy fire, were driven back to their redoubts at Freeman's Farm. Even the stubborn German troops in their fortified positions resisted fiercely, but the Americans surged forward, overwhelming them with sheer numbers and determination. The battle raged on, but the writing was on the wall. On October 8, Burgoyne, realizing that his position was untenable, began to retreat, but it was too late. General Gates, now commanding a force of 20,000 men, had his forces strategically positioned and encircled the British at Saratoga. The end was inevitable. On October 17, after days of fruitless resistance, Burgoyne, battered and broken, was forced to surrender. The Convention of Saratoga, which followed, stipulated the return of his troops to Great Britain, on the condition that they would not serve again in North America for the remainder of the war. The British commander's failure would prove a monumental turning point in the Revolution, a victory that not only crippled British morale but also turned the tide in favor of the Americans. The American triumph at Saratoga was more than just a military victory; it was a game-changer that resonated far beyond the battlefield. The victory sent shockwaves through Europe, and its impact was immediate. The French, who had been watching the war's progress with cautious optimism, were now convinced that the American cause had a real chance of success. The French government, long sympathetic to the American struggle, formally recognized American independence and committed to providing crucial military support. The tide of international diplomacy had shifted, and France's entry into the war would prove pivotal in the years to come. At home, General Gates found his fame soaring. The victory at Saratoga, the largest and most significant American success to date, elevated his status among the Continental Army's leadership. Rumors swirled that Gates might replace George Washington as commander-in-chief, with some even suggesting that his popularity and the acclaim he had received were enough to make him the new face of the American Revolution. But despite the intrigue and political maneuvering, Washington's leadership remained unchallenged. The notion of replacing him was swiftly quashed, and Washington, whose character and resolve had become synonymous with the cause of independence, would continue to lead the Continental Army for the long, grueling years ahead, ultimately securing victory at Yorktown in 1781, when the British finally surrendered. Saratoga had proven to be a turning point, not just in military terms, but in the broader struggle for American independence. The victory at Freeman's Farm and Bemis Heights had altered the course of history, shifting the balance of power and bringing the promise of foreign aid and renewed hope to the beleaguered revolutionaries. Thanks for joining us on this journey through history. If you love this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to History Love. Together, let's keep the love for history alive. See you in the next chapter.